Okay, so 3.6, so we're still finding the zeros. Again, zeros are the same as roots, the same as the x-intercepts, okay? The difference between the lesson that we just did and this one is we're not actually calculating what the zeros are. This one is asking how many are there, okay? How many x-intercepts are there? Okay, we don't necessarily care where they are, so we don't have to do the whole factoring, we don't have to do the whole quadratic formula. Sometimes the question just says, how many are there? Okay, so we could have no intercepts, we could have one intercept, or we have two intercepts. Okay, so we have two, one, or zero zeros. Zeros, roots, or real solutions. Okay, so if we have a quadratic, so quadratic makes the parabola. Okay, so we can have something that looks like this. Okay, so this would have two x-intercepts. We have two x-intercepts here. Okay, or you could draw it downwards if you wanted to. You could draw something going downwards. Okay, if you want, it would have two x-intercepts as well. Okay, so facing up or facing down. Okay, there's instances where we don't have a solution. There are no x-intercepts. What would it look like if it had no x-intercepts? Where would the parabola be? If there were no x-intercepts. Right here?
It would be like the one on the left is higher up on the y-axis.
Okay, so yeah, so we can have it here. Well, you can have it here too. It can cross the y, it's fine. So something higher above the x-axis, okay, going, say, like that. Okay, so this would not have any x-intercepts here. Okay, so it can be going upwards above the x-axis, or facing downwards below the x-axis, right? So you have something that goes like this. Okay, so this would have no x-intercepts for this example. Show it on the glare. Transition.
So these his Wi-Fi cut out, so he's trying to get it back.
Okay, and then there's some cases where there are just one solution. Okay, how can we have just one?
If it's like facing towards the right-hand side.
Well, that wouldn't be quadratic anymore. So you're thinking something like this.
Yeah.
Okay, that would be the square root function, or that would be the y squared function. So we're still looking at x for quadratics only. Let's go NG, right?
If it starts at the origin.
At the origin or anywhere along the x-axis. Okay, so we could start at the vertex would touch the x-axis. Okay, to have one solution. Okay, or it could go something like this as well. Okay, so the vertex would be on the x-axis. So to determine how many there are, we could use just a piece of the quadratic formula. Okay, so below I'll show you. So we take a piece of the quadratic formula, and which is called the discriminant. So it's going to be here. Definition. Honestly, we'll copy down later. You want to? Okay. So what we're going to do is take a piece of the quadratic formula and we call it the discriminant. Okay? So what we're doing is we're taking this piece under here and we're going to use that to calculate how many x-intercepts there are. Okay? And the way it works is if this number is greater than 0, there will be 2 x-intercepts. If the answer to this is 0, we have 1 intercept. And if this is a negative value, there are no x-intercepts. Okay? Because if you think about it, if you were to square root a positive number, say positive 4, you would get two answers, right? You would get the negative answer and the positive answer. So you have a negative 4 and a positive 4. If you square root 0, the square root of 0 is 0. That gives you one answer. Okay? So it gives you one answer. But if you were to square root a negative value, what happens here? Can we square root a negative? No. Okay? So we're taking this part. If it's a positive number greater than 0, then it gives you two answers, or two x-intercepts. If this number is equal to 0, then there's one answer. It means it starts on the x-axis. And if this value is a negative, so a negative, there are no answers because you cannot square root a negative value. Okay. He is back. Nice, Christian. Okay, so when the question asked to find the x-intercepts, you did what we just did in 3.5, so you either factor or do the quadratic formula. When it asks for how many x-intercepts, we are doing this. Okay, so we're doing this to find out how many there are. So the number of solutions or x-intercepts. Okay, so the solutions are the x-intercepts. Just give you guys a minute for those trying to copy it at home. Remember, this is online. Okay, so this part is called the discriminant. All right. Okay, number one, determine how many. We'll determine the number of roots for each one. So again, when it's saying find the number, we're just using the discriminant. But make sure you plug the correct numbers into the correct letters. Okay, so we're using the discriminant for each of them. Let's find out where my glare is again, so I don't write in this. Glare is, ignore this, guys. Just gonna avoid that spot. Okay, so first one, what is my b value? It is 2, good, so we plug in 2. So we have 2 squared minus 4. What's my a value? 3. And our c value? C value? 15. So we get 4 subtract 12 times 15. I should know that number. 180. So we get an answer of negative 176. Okay. 2 answers, 1 answers, or no answers? Spell it? No answers, okay? So no solutions. So no solution. Or you can say no x-intercepts, no roots, no zeros. Okay, so no solutions or roots. But again, roots, zeros, x-intercepts are all the same thing, just different words for it. Okay, and why is this not having any solutions? Because it's less than 0 and it has this negative. Okay, so no solutions. Okay, next one. What is my b value?
-5.
-5. Just be careful when you guys do this one. So put the -5 in the bracket and then square it. Okay, because some of your calculators, be careful. If you just plug in -5 squared, sometimes you just get a negative answer, but if you square a negative number, it should come up positive after. Okay, a value. See what's our a value here? 2. Good, and our c value? -1. So we get -5 squared is 25. -4 times 2 is -8, and times -1 is +8. So you get the answer of 33. Two, 1, or 0 solutions. 2, 1, or 0. We have, who said it? Someone said it. So you? 2 solutions, okay? So we have 2 solutions, or 2 roots, or 2 x-intercepts. And that's because the number is larger than 0. Thought it had started. Oh, just saw you guys' answers at home. Yep, correct. Be careful with this one. I'm saying be careful with this one. Why? Why as well? They're not in the correct order. Okay, so often the textbook will put them out of order. Okay, so make sure that you are plugging in the appropriate number into the correct letter, variable. What is our b value in this case? What is our b value in this case? -30, good. So -30 squared. A value? A value? It's 1. Okay, good, yeah. So it's a 1. So there isn't the number in front of the x, it is, but there is a 1. Okay, so our a value is 1. And our c value? 225. Good. I hope this works out. So 30 squared is 900. 450 times, yeah, so 900. Which gives us the answer of 0. Okay, so therefore, the last option,
One solution.
sorry?
One solution.
One solution, good. So we had 0, no solutions, or 0 solutions, 2 roots, and we have one solution. Or one intercept, okay, because it's 0. So less than 0, none. Greater than 0, 2. If it is 0, there is 1. Okay, again, we use this if the question is just asking for the number of roots. They're not asking for what they are, they're just asking for how many. If you want, you can do the whole quadratic formula if you want to find them, but if it just asks how many there are, you don't need to do all that work. Okay, so one thing I also want to mention, you can only do the discriminant or quadratic formula if what? We can only use it if what? Let's see if you guys get this. So we can't use it for these two. Why? Let's see if you guys right here.
The format?
Sorry?
The format?
The format, okay, be more specific, you're right.
Like what form is in?
Yes, well, so what form is this in? You guys remember? What form is this one in? Bella? Standard form, okay? So these first ones, this is standard form. Okay, so there's no brackets. Okay, because factored form has brackets and vertex form has brackets. Okay, so this is standard form. All the terms on one side equal to 0. Okay, that's standard form. You can only use the quadratic formula if it's in this form. You can't use it if it's in a different form. You can only use it for standard form. And Alessia had it at home, yes? Okay, so this is standard form. And you can only use a discriminant if it's in standard form. I should erase this. I'll just do the picture above it. I should have left more room. Okay, so this one doesn't require any calculations. It does not require any calculations. What we're going to do is use our knowledge of quadratics, or previous knowledge of quadratics, to determine how many zeros we have in this case. Okay, so what we're going to do is just by doing a rough sketch. So just a rough sketch. Okay, what form are these equations in? What form? There's 3 forms that you learned last year. I just mentioned all 3 of them. Which one is this one? You guys can answer at home as well. What form?
Vertex?
Yes, good. So vertex form. Okay, so this is in vertex form. So if it's in vertex form, we're going to do something else. Okay, so the first 3 were standard form. Yep, Ella had it too. And who was that? Esther? Okay, so the first 3 were standard form. These 2 are in vertex form. Now, how can we determine how many zeros there are without doing any calculations? No calculations needed. How can we determine how many zeros there are. So you guys could think about this. And again, at home, you guys can answer as well. No calculations. Right here?
We know that different numbers help us sketch out the graph, so we just sketch it out and see the
Okay.
rough where it would be.
Yep, so we're gonna do a rough sketch. We're gonna somehow use these numbers to help us. Let's see here. Inverse, shift, and vertex. Okay, not the shift. We're gonna look at the vertex though. Okay, if you guys remember last year, what numbers tell us where the vertex is? What numbers tell us where the vertex is? You guys can answer at home as well. The C value is 1, yes. This is part of the vertex. Good. And Esther, the D and C, good. So the D value and the C value, because remember that shifts it up and down, right? So this shifts it left or right. So remember, quadratic starts here. Then we shifted 4 units to the opposite. Okay, this goes to the right 4, and then 9 up. Okay, so now the quadratic, instead of being here, it's going to go 4 to the right and 9 up. So the vertex is now going to be here. Okay? But we still don't know how many zeros there are. We have to look at one last thing. One second, we're going to get Andrew. So this vertex is at 4 and 9. Okay, so Andrew, what do we look at now?
If it's negative or positive, see which way it's facing.
Good. So now we look at the A value and tell us which way it's going to face. Because if it faces upwards, there'll be no solutions. If it faces downwards, then we'll have 2 solutions. Okay, so which way does it face?
Downwards.
Downwards. Okay, so we use this, and this is going down. So it goes here, and you don't have to find any numbers. So no calculations, just find where the vertex is and see if it opens up or down. Can you guys see that okay? Yeah. And please don't do this. I've had this before. Some students just do this. They say, they tell me there's no solution. They just stop there. Okay, it's continuous, right? It's continuous, so it keeps going. Okay, so we have 2 intercepts here, or 2 solutions. Okay, so if it's not in standard form, it's in vertex. I won't give you one. If it's in factored form, it already tells you, right? Factor form, you have the x-intercepts there, it tells you. Okay, vertex, if it's in standard form, discriminant, if you want to know how many. If it's in vertex form, find out where the vertex is and see which way it opens. Okay, what's the vertex in the last one? The vertex in the last one? I mean, our last example, where would it be?
5, 1.
-5 and 1. Good. So -5 and 1. Again, this is rough. So -5 and 1. Remember, it goes the opposite way. So this is 5 to the left, 1 up. Okay, and which way does it face? Up or down? Team, up. Good. So we have it going this way. So how many solutions? Sorry, Esther, you had a -5 and 1. Good. And no solutions. Thank you, Daniel. So no solutions. Okay, it doesn't cross the x-axis. Okay, so again, 3.5, we're doing factoring a quadratic formula to find the intercepts. 3.6, we're just seeing how many there are. Okay, so the difference. So you do discriminant. Okay, homework here. So you can continue with 3.5 if you like to, or you can move on to 3.6. It's just 4 questions. Page 185, 2, 3, 4, and 8. 2, 3, 4, and 8. And then tomorrow it's we do the chapter 3 review questions, but it's only a small portion of the review since we're only doing 3 sections, right? 3.4, 3.5, 3.6. Okay, so that's the homework for this one.